Okay, first I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for coming here today. I wanted to tell you all a little bit about the polar bears and how global warming has and is still affecting them. The polar bears will not survive without action to tackle climate change. The Arctic habitat is disappearing and will continue to do so. So I want to take you a moment first to tell you about the polar bears. They swim using their large front claws to propel themselves through the water, and their back legs steer. Adult males generally weigh between 700 and 1,700 pounds. The females often weigh between 500 and 600 pounds, and the male polar bears can grow up to 10 feet in length. They're the largest predators on land and the largest of all bears. And did you all know that their skin is actually black? Their hair, the black skin helps to keep them warm by absorbing more sunlight. And their fur is actually hollow to black hairs. It's clear, it's not white. They appear white from the reflection of the sunlight. Their scientific name is Ursus maritimus, which means sea bear. Polar bears have been known to swim 100 miles at a stretch. They're carnivorous mammals. They have an average lifespan in the wild of 25 to 30 years. And their paws have pads with rough surfaces which help to keep them from slipping on the ice. They live along the shores and on sea ice in the icy cold Arctic. When sea ice forms over the ocean in the cold weather, many polar bears, except for the pregnant females, head out onto the ice to hunt the seals. Polar bears have been spotted on sea ice hundreds of miles from shore. When warm weather causes the sea ice to melt, the polar bears move back towards the shore. They primarily eat seals. They often rest silently at a seal's breathing hole on the ice, waiting for the seal in the water to surface. Once the seal comes up, the bear will spring and sink its jagged teeth into the seal's head. Sometimes the polar bears will stalk its prey. It may see a seal lying near a breathing hole and slowly move toward it, and then charge it, biting its head and grabbing it with its massive claws. A polar bear may also hunt by swimming beneath the ice. In the fall, polar bears make dens in the earth and snowbanks. That's where they're going to end up staying for the wintertime. The females will give birth to 1 to 3 cubs. In the spring, the mother will emerge from her den, followed by her cubs. Generally, she'll nurse her cubs for about 2 to 2.5 years. During this time, she will protect them and teach them how to hunt. Without the sea ice habitat, the polar bear will not survive in the long term. Scientists have predicted and have now documented the grim impacts of polar bears as the Arctic warms rapidly. Shrinking sea ice drastically restricts the polar bear's ability to hunt their main prey, which is the ice seals. In the spring of 2006, scientists located the bodies of several bears that had starved to death. Reduced food availability due to global warming has also caused polar bears to resort to cannibalism off the north coast of Alaska and Canada. In September, the U.S. Geological Survey predicted that based on polar bear distribution and current global warming, that the polar bears will be extinct by 2050, including all polar bears within the United States. The Arctic melt is also outpacing predictions, so, they predicted that the polar bears would be extinct by 2050, but since it's happening faster, it's probably going to happen well before that. September 2007, they did surveys, and they shattered all previous records for sea ice loss when an Arctic ice cap shrank to a record 1 million square miles, which is an equivalent to 6 times the size of California, which is way below the average summer sea ice extent of the past several decades, reaching levels not predicted to occur until mid-century. Scientists also predict this year's sea ice minimum could shatter the record previously set in 2007. Several leading scientists now predict the Arctic Ocean could be ice-free by the summer of 2012. There are other threats such as oil and gas drilling, shipping, and toxins, but they pale in comparison to climate change and the loss of the sea ice. The World Glacier Monitoring Service collects data annually on glacier retreat and glacier mass balance. From this data, glaciers worldwide have been shown to be shrinking significantly. In the short term, climatic warming may improve bear and seal habitats in higher latitudes over continental shelves if currently thick multi-year ice is replaced by annual ice with more leads, making it more suitable for the seals. Some polar bears populations are clearly declining or on the verge of declining, not just in the western Hudson Bay area, but also on the southern Beaufort Sea. A 2006 study found an apparent decline in polar bears. The study also saw declines in cub survival and physical stature. The same trend that preceded a significant decline in population size in the western Hudson Bay, Canada. Sorry. A recent analysis by the U.S. Geological Survey and World Conservation Union found that 2/3 of the 20,000 to 25,000 polar bears in the world could be lost in the next 50 years as warming temperatures melt the ice. The United States, Canada, Denmark, Norway, and the Soviet Union signed an agreement in 1973 to protect the polar bears. These 5 nations will meet in Norway for the first formal meeting in more than 25 years. The delegates must agree to push their countries to commit to urgent and effective action to cut greenhouse gas emissions, which help to cause climate change. They want the representatives of the 5 polar bear nations to formally call for urgent global action on climate change and to show strong leadership in attempts to achieve a new international deal on cutting emissions in Copenhagen in December. Increased carbon dioxide levels are thought to exacerbate the heating effects of the greenhouse effect by reducing the radiation of heat from the sun and therefore increasing the temperature contained in the atmosphere. As the ability of the atmosphere to capture and recycle energy emitted by the Earth's surface is essential to a stable climate, this heightened temperature may introduce a destabilizing influence and potentially affect global warming patterns and eventually long-term climate change. Carbon dioxide levels are substantially higher now than at any time in the last 750,000 years, beginning with the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century and accelerating since. The human consumption of fossil fuels has elevated carbon dioxide levels. Some of the different things you can do to reduce your carbon dioxide output is turn off the light when you leave the room. If you have a regular light bulb, you're going to leave the room for 5 seconds or more, go ahead and shut it off. If you have one of the new compact fluorescent light bulbs and you're going to leave the room for more than 15 minutes, shut it off. Also, any electronics that you're not using, you should go ahead and unplug those from the wall, because even if you just have your laptop plugged in but turned off, it will cost you about $9 a year in electricity. Your cell phone charger is another example. Unplug it when you're not charging your cell phone. An easy way to keep your electronics to where, because there's what they call ghost electricity or vampire electricity that flows from the electric socket up to the device, which helps it when you turn it on, it turns on faster. This vampire electricity sucks up about $4 billion a year in energy for things that aren't even turned on. You can plug your stuff into a power strip and just turn the power strip off, and that cuts the electricity off to all of your devices. So it's a little bit easier than having to go and unplug several different devices. You can just unplug one cord. Another thing that you can do is use one of the old wind-up alarm clocks instead of a digital or electronic alarm clock. You can dry your clothes out on a line instead of drying them in the dryer. You can jog in a nearby park instead of doing a 45-minute workout on a treadmill. Using a non-electric toothbrush is another thing that you can do to help reduce your carbon dioxide output. Switching from regular bulbs to the compact fluorescents will help also. Of course, if you can take a train, bus, or a carpool instead of driving back and forth to work every day, that would help. Shutting down your computer and flat screen for your lunch break at work will cut CO2 emissions generated by these appliances by 1/3. You can invest in a water-saving shower head that will save about 10 liters of water per minute, but it will also slash carbon dioxide emissions by half if you just take a 3-minute shower. Reducing the weight of the goods and items that you carry online if you're going to be flying in a plane could actually reduce global emissions by 2 million tons of CO2 a year. That's it. Anybody have any questions?
Push stop.
Yeah. So make a push stop now.
Push stop.